Welcome to the Little Bighorn Map Battle. This is part 3 in our series of 6 videos, and I am Bill Smith, your narrator for the series. And now let's get back to the maps and continue on with the unfolding events of June 25th, 1876. Here we are on our third set of maps. We have moved to the left or west some more, and we can see Reno Creek, as well as the remainder of the Benteen Scout features in all their glory. At the top of the map, flowing right to left, is Reno Creek. The Morass, an area that will become important later on, is located here, just west of Valley Number 3 on Reno Creek. The Benteen Scout features are to the south of Reno Creek. Here we have Valley Number 2, Ridge B, or the second line of bluffs, Valley Number 3, Ridge C, or the third line of bluffs, and the South Fork of Reno Creek. Now, in our last video, Benteen had started his scout and reached the plateau, or the first line of bluffs, but he could not see the Little Bighorn Valley to the west because the next ridge, Ridge B, to the left or west, blocked his view. So Benteen has to move off the plateau, and he descends into Valley Number 2, and as you can see, he is moving down now. The captain then climbs up onto Ridge B, arriving there at 1:02 p.m. While Benteen is up on Ridge B, both Custer and Reno are traveling west down Reno Creek, and you can finally see both of them arriving on the map to the right. Benteen looks north down Valley Number 2, sighting Custer and Reno's troops on Reno Creek in the distance. Benteen finds no Indians in Valley Number 2, so he is sure that Reno and Custer's flank is still clear. Then Benteen looks off to the west for the Little Bighorn Valley. Unfortunately, the next ridge to the west, Ridge C, the third line of bluffs, is just as high as Ridge B, and it blocks any view of the Little Bighorn Valley. So now Benteen is starting to become annoyed. He now knows that he is going to have to move up to another ridge, tiring his men and horses further. To save his men and horses, Benteen decides to gamble on his next move. Rather than moving his entire battalion to the next ridge, Benteen will only send the advance detail under 1st Lieutenant Francis Marion Gibson. The rest of the battalion will wait and rest in Valley Number 3 while the advance detail under Lieutenant Gibson will climb Ridge C and assess the situation. What Gibson finds on Ridge C will dictate Benteen's next move. So Benteen moves off Ridge B and descends into Valley Number 3, arriving there at 1:17 p.m. Gibson, who has been detached with his advance detail, moves off and climbs Ridge C, arriving there at about 1:20 p.m. From the high ridge, Gibson can see down Valley Number 3 into Reno Creek. No Indians are present. Custer and Reno's flank is still clear, as well as Benteen's path to Reno Creek should the captain use that valley as an access point later on in the future. Gibson also looks west, and he finally can see into the Little Bighorn Valley. There is a ridge to the left or west of Ridge C, however it is lower in elevation, so Gibson has no problem looking into the Little Bighorn Valley from here. He does not see any villages at all, though. The southern part of the valley especially appears wide open. If any villages are in the valley, they must be to the north where the higher bluffs are blocking their view. Gibson in the advance detail descends Ridge C back into Valley Number 3, where at 1:30 p.m. the lieutenant reports the situation to Benteen. After hearing this, Benteen is now confident that the scout is over, and he can now begin his return to the command. Valley Number 3 is going to be the avenue that he uses for the rendezvous. Meanwhile, up on Reno Creek, Custer and Reno are still moving west toward the Little Bighorn. At about 1:37 p.m., Boston Custer, due to a tired horse, leaves headquarters and begins a retrograde movement back east up Reno Creek. Now, Boston's goal was to link back up with the pack train in the rear area, secure a fresh horse, and then begin moving back west to link back up with Custer's battalion. Benteen begins his move down Valley Number 3 to link up with Custer and Reno shortly after 1:30 p.m. So now at this point you have Custer and Reno moving to the left down Reno Creek, or west. You have Boston Custer moving to the right, or to the east on Reno Creek. And you have Benteen moving toward the north up Valley Number 3. Captain McDougal and the pack train finally appears on the screen. As you can see, they're on the map to the right, and they're nearing the mouth of Valley Number 2 at 1:47 p.m. By this time, Custer and Reno are moving off the map. Boston reaches the pack train at about 2:04 p.m., and he exchanges his horse there, and then he begins a move off back to the west at 2:07 p.m. At 2:16 p.m., Benteen reaches Reno Creek and begins to move west. Boston Custer overtakes Benteen's battalion, waving his hat as he passes by. Benteen reaches the Morass at 2:36 p.m. and waters his horses. Now Boston is finally moving off the map to the left, and at the same time, Benteen and his troops begin to hear gunfire to the west. Captain Thomas Weir, commander of Company D, moves out, and Benteen follows at 2:56 p.m. Just as Benteen is pulling out of the morass, the pack train arrives, and several of the mules run into the water and get stuck in the mud. Benteen continues to move off to the west, leaving Thomas McDougall to deal with the thirsty mules. And now we have Benteen leaving the map. Here we see the first of Custer's couriers arriving on the map. This is Sergeant Daniel Knipe of Company C. In a retrograde movement, west to east, he has been given verbal orders to locate the pack train and to walk it up to the battlefield. McDougall and the pack train departs the morass at 3:17 p.m., and Sergeant Knipe reaches McDougall just west of the morass at 3:37 p.m. Knipe, who has been with Custer up on the bluffs, can now walk the pack train to the battlefield, and as you can see, both the packs and Knipe begin their move to the west until finally the pack train moves off the map. So now we're going to move off to the left or the west to our next set of maps and continue to follow the movements of the 7th Cavalry as they move down toward the Little Bighorn Valley.